Curiosity killed the cat, or did it? In today's episode, we're going to see how keeping curious keeps us sharp as Java developers. Coming up.
Java Easy. News, tutorials, tips. Everything you need to know as a beginner Java developer.
Hey friends, hope you're having a good day and welcome back to the podcast. So before we kick off into this episode, if you're completely new to Java, you might want to go and grab our free Java Beginner Starter Kit. It's over there, available at our website, javaeasily.com. So just go over there and we'll send you this really useful guide on how to get started with Java. So go grab it now while you can. Anyway, on to the content of this episode then. So this episode is really about staying curious. Right? And it's about being curious and always having this curious mentality. I kind of touched upon this on a different episode. We tend to only ever think really in terms of things that we already know, right? So once we become competent in our job and we know how to use the tools, we know how to find our way through the code base, we can kind of almost do it on autopilot. When that happens, which is a great place to be, of course, because then you feel, the working day becomes easier, more manageable, there's less stress, all that kind of stuff. But so there's obviously, pros to that. But a downside to that, which we don't normally think about, is the fact that there's a cost to this. And the cost to this is that we become kind of blind to other stuff. It's almost like we stop learning, right? So for example, I explained this, I think I touched upon this nicer in a previous podcast episode than I'm explaining it now. But here's an example, right? So we use the IDE, right? And when we use the IDE, as soon as you know how to build things, you know how to, run your Maven builds, refresh dependencies, get call hierarchies, do whatever you need to do. All of these, actually even spot me talking about these things in podcast episodes, and you probably by now know what my go-to, tools and techniques are inside an IDE, right? And that's because I'm familiar with them, they work for me, and they give me good results. But at the cost then of, once we know this kind of good stuff and we become competent to a very high level in our jobs as software developers, or in any job in fact, we then stop learning things, right? Or, we at least become kind of like almost blind to anything else. When was the last time, for example, when you looked at your IDE, if you're in Eclipse or IntelliJ IDEA or NetBeans, why not? Sorry, that sounded disparaging for anybody who's using NetBeans. NetBeans used to be great, from Forte back in the day and everything. Nothing wrong with NetBeans. Anyway, but I'm just an IntelliJ IDEA person, but moving on. But yeah, when was the last time, whichever IDE you use, when was the last time that you, looked at the other menu options that are around, and just to discover things? We don't tend to do that. And then when we stumble upon, something by maybe we see a work friend, a workmate or whatever, a colleague doing something in a specific way, we're like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know you could do that. And then you write it down and then you start using that as well. And that's nice. But you get to that, discovering something cool, right? Just by, kind of serendipity. Whereas it's much nicer. And this is the point of this episode, it's much nicer to make a point of always trying to develop yourself and always try and notice new things, okay? Because, as I say, we always, tend to become blind to different ways of doing things or alternative ways of doing things once we're in that kind of like, safe and comfortable and always gives us great results way of working that we currently have, okay? And it's kind of different because when you start out, if you think about it, right, when you first start on something, you're hyper vigilant, right? You're looking at every single thing for any single clue that you can possibly glean from the environment that you're in. So for example, when you use an IDE for the first time and you start with Java, you're going to be looking everywhere around all the different menu options and, and taking notice of every single thing. Oh, that's gone red there. Why is there an underline here? Or what's this mean here? Oh, hang on, it says an error message there. All of these things, at that point, we're hyper vigilant because we have to. By necessity then, we have to, quickly assemble all of this information, make sense of our surroundings, as it were, surroundings in the sense of, in the IDE environment or whatever. But yeah, we're hyper vigilant in the beginning, but then as soon as you know how to do something, you tend to kind of like just get into the groove or the habit of just that investigating things in that very specific, very particular way because you can get good results out of it. And that's great. That's fantastic, right? But the point is, do make an effort, don't be blinded to everything else. Do make an effort to look for other things and to, consider different ways of doing things. So I encourage you to open your eyes again and become kind of, your own revisionary of like Java stuff, basically. Start looking at the tools you use, read through the menu options, go through the quick tips. I mean, a great thing there in IntelliJ IDEA is the quick tips. Switch it on. A lot of people switch this off because they don't want to have this kind of, when I fire up IDEA, this quick tips thing comes on, so I want to get rid of it. No, don't do that. You're missing a trick. Basically, every single day it can give you it gives you the opportunity to discover something new which you didn't know about before, right? So that's fine. Just look at the quick tips. And if you don't like the quick tip for that day, just press next and look at a quick tip that you do like or whatever. It gives you the opportunity though. That's it. And it's giving you this kind of this really good opportunity to discover things that you wouldn't normally discover had you just been left to your own devices in this kind of, blinded by your own successful route of doing things kind of way that we go through our day-to-day activities with. Also, another thing is when you learn something new, right, try and incorporate it straight away, or at least set a reminder to try it again in a few days. Because I found that if you don't do this, you forget. I'll write, for example, aliases. This is when you can customize your own development environment. We'll talk about this in a different episode. But yeah, when you customize your environment, you can create these aliases, which are like little mini commands, which can help you, become a power user of your own environment, as it were, which is very useful. But I'll create an alias for something, which will do something very specific. Right? And I use it in the moment because I need to use it. And then a few weeks will go by and I'll completely forget to use that. And then when I look at my bashrc file, which is the resource file where all my aliases and functions and everything and environment variables are, I'll look at it and I'll randomly discover it again. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I wrote that. What does that do? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I forgot about that. And then I'll rediscover it. But if you set a reminder to look at it each time or set a reminder to look at it in the future, then there's no danger of doing that. And also just try and incorporate something new that you discover. Try and use it straight away. Because in doing that, it kind of gets it into your head, which is a good thing. Also, write things down, right? Just the act of writing them down somehow kind of puts things into your brain much better. So those are a few tips on how to stay curious. So always stay curious in your job. That's the main message today. And feel free, and please do, to rediscover the tools that you use by investigating different menu options and trying to approach it as if it's with the same hypervigilance that you would do when you first open the IDE for the very first time, or whatever it might be when you first use that tool for the very first time. Anyway, hope that was useful. Hope that was inspiring. Keep doing the good work, keep coding, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.